Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Commodity TV and our first company presentation here virtual from Ion Energy Limited with Ali Haji, and he's the CEO of the company. Ali, hi, and good morning to Canada. How are you?
Hi, Jochen. Good to see you again. Very well.
Yeah, good to see you. Last time we met at PDAC in Toronto, it looks like ages away, honestly, when we met us in person, and it took a bit of time until you were listed. We were discussing that already there, and now you guys are listed and the company is up and running, and so we thought it's appropriate to get a presentation from you. And I would say, Ali, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Jochen. I appreciate it. You're absolutely right. I think, when we met during PDAC, the intention was to be listed in about April. Obviously, the world was very much upside down in April. The lockdowns that occurred internationally really moved the needle, I'd say, a fair bit. But in fairness, I think COVID has been a bit of a blessing in disguise for our company, and I'll speak to that in just a second. So Ion Energy is a company that I co-founded in 2017. Our purpose was solely to look for lithium in Mongolia, and that was spurned off of a visit. This is your typical legal disclaimer, but that was spurned off of sort of the last lithium cycles. If you know, 2015, 2016, a lot of organizations and companies went public in the lithium space. A lot of them were overvalued, a lot like what you would have seen in the crypto and cannabis phases that we've recently been through. And we knew that lithium was going to make a comeback. And so we began in 2017 looking in Mongolia for lithium. And we were able to find a fair bit of information. One being the fact that the Russian government, when Mongolia was part of the USSR, did some drilling in Sukbatar, which is right around there where our license is, if you look at the LI symbol. And they were able to find a brine aquifer about 20 meters below surface, which is indicative of an endoheric basin. I don't want to bore you with the details, but what that means is all precipitation that's fallen in that region has never gone out to an external body of water. So in the 90s, the Mongolians and the Russians went back there, drilled some holes, found lithium under surface. But importantly, in 2016, a gentleman by the name of Dr. Hashbat Dashtetsaren, who's a PhD lithium hydrogeologist from the University of Science and Technology in Ulaanbaatar, spent an entire summer exploring the region where our license exists today, and they found 811 ppm as their max grade, 426 as their average grade, and the geology of the region that was mapped by the government and sort of the university indicated a very similar geology to what you would find in the Lithium Triangle. So,
Ali, question: This is a brine project, right? Not hard rock. That's important.
Correct. That's correct. It's absolutely brine. The endoheric basin, as I mentioned, is very indicative of what you'll find in the Lithium Triangle. Yes, indeed, brine. And in January 2019, the government issued Ion Energy an 81,000 hectare license, the largest license ever to be granted to a private company by the government of Mongolia. So a really strong indication of our relationships in country, the government's sort of ability and willingness to move away from coal. But importantly, if you look at where we're located, we're only about 24 kilometers from the Chinese border. And we'll talk to why that's important in just a second here. So we talked about the geology quite briefly there, and that's what we're looking at in this image. The black lines there are essentially the boundary of that basin. The samples that we obtained are the two red spots, LI11 and LI8. It is brine, so again, your cost of production will be lower, and it is a basin in a sense that all precipitation that's fallen in this region has not exited to an external body of water since the Cretaceous period. So it's percolated through the rocks, brought down the lithium into this aquifer, and we have actually commenced exploration, which I'll speak to in just a second as well. So I've had about 13 years of international asset management experience. I'm a board member in 2 different mining companies. I was an advisor to Step Gold and Atma Capital Markets. Step is a Mongolian gold producer, if you're familiar with the story. My father's been in mining since 1998, so I do know a fair bit about it.
And you're also Mongolian, right?
I'm not Mongolian. I'm actually Kenyan. I grew up in Kenya, but I am a Canadian national. I spent my childhood in Kenya, and I've been in Canada on and off for the last 20 years or so. So Matthew Wood, I think an individual that is our chairman and also co-founder of the company. He is the chairman of Step Gold, which is an additional Mongolian company. But he was also the founder of Hunu Gold, which was a 20 million IPO on the ASX in 2010. and a $500 million exit in 18 months later. Bata is one of our two Mongolian directors. He is a special advisor to the Minister of Mines. He was with the previous government. He was reappointed with the new government. And that speaks to our ability to be agnostic in terms of who's in power, politically agnostic. Anil is an EVP of Step Gold, but also an investment banker by trade, ex-Dundee, ex-Goodman, actually had a lot to do with the last lithium cycle and taking some of those companies public as well. Enki is our second Mongolian director, and he's an individual that's had a tremendous amount of experience exploring the Eurasian subcontinent. He's been accredited with having found multi-million-ounce gold deposits in the region as well. So you'll notice half our board is Mongolian, and that's a really strong way to find quality individuals that we've added to our team, but also to build goodwill with the government and the people of Mongolia. John McVicker. He used to be a partner at Ernst & Young. He sort of came out of retirement to join the team, so really appreciate having him on board. And you might ask yourself, where's the lithium experience? And those are valid questions, right? Yeah. So over the course of the summer, when we were trying to go public, I engaged with Mr. Paul Fornazzari and Mr. Don Haynes to join our advisory board. Paul is the original chairman of Lithium Americas, now valued at $1.5 billion. He was instrumental in doing the deal with Ganfeng. And Ganfeng, as you know, is one of the largest lithium companies in the world today. He's done deals with the likes of Mitsubishi and Magna. He is a partner at Fasken, which is an international law firm with very well respected in the mining space as well. So I like to say that Paul is the individual that we're learning a lot from. He was a director at NEO as well. He's ensuring that the company doesn't make the same mistakes that those two companies made. And granted, we'll make new ones, but thankfully we can learn from his experience. And we know that he's sent sort of a, I like to say, carrier pigeon over to China and the rest of these strategic markets to start planning for a JV or exit in the not too distant future. Don Haynes is an extremely technical individual. He's had a number of years of experience in lithium. He's done a fair bit of work in the Lithium Triangle. When he reviewed the geology of our license, he did tell us that it very much mirrors what he's found in the Lithium Triangle. And he's been highly accredited with having written some of the first 43-101s for lithium brine. In fact, he built, so to speak, the template with the OSC as to what should be written in a 43-101 for the brine space. So really pleased to have these two individuals on the board, really strengthen our bench. And we're really pleased that they've been able to join us. So we talk about lithium. I think a lot of us know the space and we all know the Teslas of the world and we get excited by it and that's great. But, you know, as I started this conversation, I said, we founded the company off of the last lithium cycle. Meaning, you know, resources are cyclical in nature, and we all know this. But we believe as a company that this truly is a clean energy revolution. So it's no longer a cycle, it's a revolution. And I say that because with COVID, as I mentioned earlier, it's been a blessing in disguise. Governments around the world have said, you know, let's ensure that we come out of COVID with a green recovery. The EU announced a 750 billion euro recovery package over the course of the summer. 576 billion of that 750 was footnoted or had some sort of reference to a renewable type of spend. 20 billion was directly allocated to EV subsidization and gigafactory development. So that really spurred governments around the world, including the UK, to start to say, you know, this is a revolution. It's no longer a cycle. We want to come out of this nice and clean. The UK printed £1 billion for that same purpose. The US very recently identified battery metals as metals of strategic interest, which means we're essentially entering a paradigm shift or an inflection point in our history where battery metals will become as important as oil was when wars were fought over it. That's our strong opinion. And we're seeing that more and more because of the geopolitics of the world. So we're located close to China, 24 kilometers, as I mentioned. China consumes 53% of the world's lithium, produces 73% of the world's batteries, refines 80% of all lithium that goes into batteries around the world. So having that on our doorstep is important, but there are also others in the region that would be of interest to us. So this is sort of, this slide I like to say is an education piece, really to tell people about Mongolia. I know the Germans, call Mongolia lovingly Mongolai. when I was in Munich with you, Jochen, we spoke to some of them, and we have some German investors as well. But I think for a lot of folks, Mongolia is a country that people don't quite understand. It's a country that they see as risky. I like to say that it's a fantastic country. We've been there over 10 years. We've had a number of successes. Hunu was sort of the first entrant in the portfolio of companies that we formed in Mongolia. My chairman, Matt Wood, took that public for 20 million in 2010 and exited in an all-cash sale for $500 million 18 months later. So that was during the last coal boom. What we're trying to do with ION is very much mirror what Hunu did, which is go in country, acquire as many lithium licenses as we possibly can, explore them enough to de-risk them, and then ultimately bring in a JV partner or an acquirer in 18 to 24 months' time.
Mm-hmm. Would it for you be possible, let's say, to go in production and then to ship your battery grade concentrate, I would call it, then to China directly? Is that possible?
It's absolutely possible, Jochen, but the capex required is significant to bring a lithium mine into production. You're looking at a few $100 million.
But I mean, you are next to China, and there are all the battery makers. They need this, let's say, raw material.
Absolutely. And so our intention is not to bring this thing to production. We would like very much to de-risk it through exploration. We'd like to acquire more lithium-bearing licenses in country and then bring in a JV partner or a strategic like a Ganfeng, a Tianqi, a Samsung, a Panasonic, a Sony, one of these other battery manufacturers to come in and either acquire the company in its entirety and bring it to production, or acquire the vast majority of the company and leave us with a little bit and bring it to production. So yeah, absolutely, that would
and then at a hopefully higher price.
Absolutely, significantly higher price. So you hit the nail on the head there. You said China is the biggest market, and that's absolutely correct. And if you look at the infrastructure in place, the roads, this is about 60 kilometers from my license, the image on the left there with the camels, very easy to traverse. If you look at the Lithium Triangle in Latin America, some of the terrain, I like to say, forces you to change your tires as often as you change your socks, because it's quite difficult to drive on. It rips up your tires, and that adds to your overall costs. For us, as you can tell from the image there, the roads and the actual dirt roads as well, I like to joke, are better than roads in Toronto. So quite nice and easy to get around in. And in addition to sort of having great infrastructure that does well for reduction of costs, we've always operated our companies as Mongolian companies. So the vast majority of our staff, in fact, I'm the only non-Mongolian on the staff roster, if you will. And we do that for multiple reasons. One being the fact that Mongolian nationals are very well versed with mining because it contributes so much to their GDP. You can employ locals to do the job at a lesser cost than you would if you had expats. Expats are extremely expensive, but employing local Mongolians and paying taxes in Mongolia bodes well with the government and the people of Mongolia. So we like to call ourselves a Mongolian company listed on the Toronto Stock Exchange. So, sorry, Jochen, I'll take a step back and talk to the Chinese parable, if you will.
Sure.
China is important, absolutely, but so is Japan, so is Korea, so is Taiwan, and so is India. The Germans, in fact, were on our license before we received it. The U.S., Mike Pompeo, was in Mongolia last year trying to get a deal going so that he can extract as many battery metals as he could. And that election result is yet to be determined as we speak. But ultimately, a lot of these countries would like to keep this lithium out of the Chinese hands and would like to acquire it for themselves. So the competition in terms of potential acquirers is fairly vast.
But does that mean that you are really owning all of the land, or is there, let's say, a risk that it could be taken away?
Good question, and I think that's one that is prompted by sort of the past in Mongolia with Ivanhoe and Oyu Tolgoi having some issues as well. There is no risk for it being taken away. We've met with multiple people in government, including the Prime Minister and the President in investor forums, the Minister of Mines on multiple occasions. And they've all said, and they're all, a couple of them are from different political parties, they've all said that they've learned from their mistakes. They're open for business. Canada has an FIPA with Mongolia, which is a Foreign Investment Protection Act. So we are quite well protected, being a Canadian company, but also having strong relationships with a government that's consistently said that they would never look to nationalize again. So no, there is no risk.
Okay.
Good question. So, we went public in August. We started exploration in last week, I think it was. And we essentially started with geophysics CSAMT. That'll run about 6 weeks at 50-meter spacing. This will give us an indication of the conductivity of the aquifer beneath surface. We'll then do seismic, which will give us a good sense of the width, the thickness, and the actual depth of this aquifer. And we will begin auger rig drilling in January of next year. We bought our auger rig already. It's on site, so we have no risk if there's a potential lockdown. The team is all Mongolian, and they're all operating just fine. Another benefit of not having expats, right? Yeah, we're excited about exploration. This will give us a true sense of how big and thick this aquifer is. The auger drilling in January, when we bring up samples, will be followed by some diamond core rig drilling as well. That'll allow us to understand the porosity of the ground, and thus how much lithium we can truly extract from this license. So we're very excited about what's to come. We are also going to be looking at additional acquisitions in countries. So as I mentioned earlier, try to acquire additional lithium-bearing licenses in country as well. Mm-hmm. So very quickly on the EV space, folks see Teslas everywhere in Toronto, and Norway, Sweden, and Iceland are generally the countries that you would think are extremely green and renewable in nature, which is a fair statement to make. But China is buying 3 times as many EVs per capita than any one of these countries. So the Chinese EV market is actually the largest EV market in the world. And again, our proximity to that market makes us quite the contender in terms of strategic value. So this slide I'll let the readers or the listeners take a look at it in sort of their own time, but I'll give you a quick breakdown, which is the Mongolian People's Party was re-elected this summer for an additional 4-year term. They've been extremely supportive of our group. They were re-elected with a majority government, and we're very pleased with sort of where that lies. They've been extremely supportive of our group. One of their first sovereign wealth fund investments was in a sister company by the name of Step Gold as well. So very happy to be operating in Mongolia. It's a fantastic country. I'd encourage any of you to visit if you haven't, but really known as the last frontier in mining and vastly underdeveloped. So a fair bit of potential there. Mm-hmm. So let's talk about the numbers. I think this is where things get interesting. I mentioned earlier we received the license in January 2019. August of this year, we raised the funds necessary to go public. We raised $2.7 million. That's twice as much as our minimum requirement of $1.3 million from the TSX. So that's an indication of the strong lithium market as a result of COVID and this paradigm shift and revolution that we speak of. We started trading on August 31st of this year. We raised, as I said, 2.7 at 30 cents a unit with a 40-cent warrant, full warrant valid for 2 years. In October, we commenced exploration. We have coverage from Stonegate. We added to our advisory team. And in terms of our market cap today, with 48 million shares outstanding, our market cap is 15.5. Kalura Capital, which is a small brokerage house or research house out of Vancouver, valued us at 37 million post-money. So we're vastly undervalued. Stonegate has echoed that. We have enough capital to complete our exploration programs on the existing license, and should we receive a second license, we will be funded to explore that as well. The share price is sort of fluctuated in and around, first day out of the gate around 50 cents a share, which was pretty scary to ramp up that quickly. Settled down. We were trending towards about 40, 43, and then Elon Musk's battery day happened, and he said he would get all his lithium from the clays in Nevada. Most lithium companies dropped around 40% around the world. We fared better with only a 6 to 8% decline. But ultimately, what I'd like to tell the market is we're trading in Frankfurt, and thank you, Jochen, for assisting us with that.
Welcome.
We're trading on the TSX Venture. We will be trading on the OTC by the end of the year in the US as well. And at this valuation, based on our peers, we are quite cheap, as I indicated earlier. Management and insiders, we own 36% of the company. We've done some on-market buying since we've been public to support our stock.
And you have paid for that? Yeah, we paid. So we participated in every round as management and insiders. And we're fully escrowed for 2 years. And the exchange asked us to be escrowed for 1 year
But we went back and said, no, we want to be escrowed for 2 years, because our vision with this company is quite simple. It's acquire as many licenses in country as possible, do enough exploration to de-risk them, acquire hard rock and brine so that we're hedged well depending on which way the battery chemistry goes. And then ultimately, as has been the goal since the onset of this company, is to bring on a strategic to help develop or bring this into production, or ultimately exit in its entirety. Some funds have participated as well, as you'll see at the bottom table there. Spartan Funds is a Canadian fund that's participated. Alpha North came in on the IPO; they own 2%, and Maxit Capital as well owns 2% of the company.
Mm-hmm. Great. One question, because I read here the license was granted by the Mongolian government. Is there a time limit on that, or let's call it a maturity date?
Yeah, so you get 3.5 years as an exploration license.
Uh-huh.
You can renew for an additional 3.5 years, so that's 7, and then your final renewal you can renew for 3 years. So you can only explore or hold an exploration license for a maximum of 10 years,
uh-huh.
No more than that. If you exceed the 10 years of exploration, I would say you're probably doing something wrong, and the government will take the license back. So our intention is to explore, and should we require a renewal, because it is a large land package, it's 81,000 hectares. Mm-hmm. It is fairly large. So our expectation would be we'll have plenty of time to complete exploration and do it.
Okay, how much work do you think you can complete with the catch you have now? Because I see here aggressive growth strategy for sure. Yeah, so you are drilling now from January onwards, latest. So how is that measured? How many meters do you think you can do, or how many holes you want to bring down? And what is the plan, let's say, for the whole year 2021?
2021 will, the geophysics has commenced now. This 81,000 hectare license, when we put our proposal to the exchange to go public, we allocated $1.2 million for the exploration program on Bavail. We expect it to actually be less than that. Don Haynes, who's our technical advisor, has been through it in quite some detail. So you'll notice when you and I chatted back in March, Jochen, we said we're going to put an auger rig down and drill 200 meters apart to start, and then expand that to 400 meters. A vast number of holes, but also a very time-consuming process and expensive process. Mm-hmm. So Don and his expertise coming into the company told us that CSAMT and then geophysics will allow us to figure out exactly where we need to drill, so we're not drilling as many holes. We're drilling fewer holes, but on more concrete data, so to speak, as opposed to poking holes in an 81,000 hectare. Yeah. So we are, in that regard, well funded for exploration on that one license. The growth strategy that you see here entails acquiring additional licenses. So we would have enough capital. We'll have about $1 million left to explore any one of these additional licenses. But then again, as we start to re-rate and as we start to put out exploration results, as we start to trade on multiple markets, and as we see from our cheap valuation today, we expect that we'll be at a higher quantum come Q1 once we start to put results out to market. Mm-hmm. And should there be enough interest at that time to refinance the company or refund and do a placement, we would likely do so at a higher price with a higher warrant attached to it. But for now, we're quite comfortable in the position that we're in.
Mm-hmm. Fantastic. Anything you want to add to the presentation here?
No, I would just say, keep an eye on us.
Okay.
As I mentioned, we're trading in Frankfurt, we're trading in Toronto, and we'll be trading on the OTC in due course as well. So just keep an eye on us, and thank you for listening.
Super, perfect. I have also one more question, because I saw this fabulous, let's call it infrastructure with tarred roads to your project. And you said even the gravel roads are fantastic. So does that mean that also, let's say, the drilling costs are a bit lower than usual? Because when you can transport the drill rig with a truck there, and you must not fly in, fly out, stuff like that, I could imagine that it's maybe a little bit less expensive. So that
absolutely. Mongolia, as it is, it's cheaper to operate in because of the experience that we've had in country. But I think, the roads absolutely help. I mentioned that, the lithium triangle, when you change your tires as often as you change your socks, because of how jagged the crystals are that you drive on, that again adds to your cost. So yeah, absolutely. The terrain is a big help for us.
Mm-hmm. Fantastic. Great. So, I would say that was a great presentation. Thank you very much, Ali. And I have a good feeling that we talk again, probably Q1, Q2. And let the drills turn, I would say, because the world needs lithium. That is for sure.
Absolutely. Thank you,
Super.
Jochen. I appreciate
Thank
it.
you very much, Ali. Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, that was first company presentation and insight of Ion Energy, and Ali Haji, the CEO of this new company, actually just listed in August this year. And you heard it, lithium in Mongolia. This is fairly something really new. And if I remember, Mongolia is famous for copper, for coal, also for gold. Yeah, now we talk about lithium also. And what I like is the proximity to China. And of course, China is the largest battery manufacturer in the world. So they need a lot of lithium for sure, also in the near-term future, not only in 10 years. And this makes this project, if they move on with good drill results, very, very valuable. So I would suggest you check out the company. Thanks for watching us, and bye-bye from Switzerland.